Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome to the session Convergent QtQuick Applications with Kirigami as part of the Ubuntu Online Summit. My name is Thomas Pfeiffer and with me is Marco Martin.
Hello.
Yeah, we are currently the two main people behind Kirigami. Marco is the maintainer and also the main developer. And I am mainly responsible for interaction design for Kirigami. So, let's see. Okay, so our agenda. First of all, I will talk about what Kirigami UI is, then give a brief overview of the history of Kirigami, then talk about some basic assumptions behind the design. I will present some of the fundamental elements and some examples of applications which are currently in development or already released using Kirigami. Then Marco will take over and go into a little bit more detail into the technical basics and how to get started with actually working with Kirigami. So, first of all, what is Kirigami UI? It is, on the one hand, a design philosophy for designing convergent applications, and also a set of QML components which can be used to implement applications which are following that philosophy. And they are an add-on for QtQuick controls. So, a brief history. The whole thing started with Plasma Mobile, where we needed some UI components which would allow us to more easily create applications and the shell for Plasma Mobile. So we already had the QtQuick components, but the QtQuick controls, but they are really just very, very basic elements. And yeah, we needed some more complete UI components. So Marco originally started the project, and then pretty early on we got some designers on board. So I do mostly interaction design, but we then also primarily get Alessandro Longo on board, who volunteered to do visual design and also general interaction design for the framework. And Marco had the idea to not only have a set of components, but similar to Android's material design, also have a design philosophy and design guidelines to accompany these components so that they could really focus on a clear design. And Marco and Sebastian Kügler also got an interesting project on board pretty early on, Subsurface, which is a project which is maintained by Dirk Hondel, who is one of the core Linux maintainer, and also together with Linus Torvalds. And they recently, not that recently, but they switched from GTK to Qt as their framework. So, and they also wanted to have a mobile version of the application. So that project was an ideal first use case to try out how well our components and our philosophy work in practice. So we got the project on board, and Sebas and Marco did some initial work on the user interface using our components. And since then, they've been using it and giving us a lot of valuable practical feedback. So yeah, getting also external developers on board was very helpful with the project. Now, some basic assumptions behind the design. So, similar to Ubuntu with the Unity 8 project, we also think that convergence is the future. So an application should not only work on either mobile or desktop. It should be possible to switch a user interface between form factors on the fly. But one important aspect for us was that unlike, for example, Microsoft's idea of convergence, we think that for example, a desktop user interface should not just be an enlarged mobile user interface with maybe a bit of fluid layout, but user interfaces should really be optimized for each device class or form factor they're running on. So this was our goal, to have applications which can be used on multiple platforms, but which will really work well on each of them. Then the second basic assumption was that we wanted to focus on applications for content consumption instead of content creation. So we're not focusing on creating user interfaces for complex text editors or whatever, but for document viewers, for applications that browse through content and things like that. But also things like an email client, which is, of course, also about writing emails. But our assumption was that specifically on the mobile use case, it's still primarily about reading content. Then following that, we wanted to give as much space to content as possible. So we don't want to have a lot of controls on the screen at all time, but really only have access to them on demand. And we also optimize for hierarchically organized content. So, for example, when browsing through your pictures, for example, they are usually organized in a hierarchical way, be it by folders or be it by tags or whatever. And we want to make that as easy as possible. So for this, following these basic assumptions, these are some of the fundamental user interface elements. So we have what we called column-based navigation. The technical component is called page row. So what it does is it allows you to add additional pages to your user interface, which then can be scrolled through horizontally, which means that they will allow you to navigate through a hierarchy pretty easily. So it's you can walk both forward and back. So for example, when you're looking at the details of one specific element, you can switch back to others, but also pretty easily go back to where you were before. So it's a bit of a back, forward, or undo, redo. Then second one is action buttons. So they're at the center, the bottom, there is we call a primary action button together with secondary action buttons. They are not necessarily present in every application, but if an application has, or if a certain page within an application has a standard or primary action, which is very often executed there, then it should be easily accessible, and also two secondary actions. So these are really the actions that are very, very common. For all other actions, we use drawers. So there's one drawer on the left, which we call the global drawer. So that is pretty similar to, for example, Android, where you have the main menu in a drawer, which can be opened and closed easily. And we also have a context drawer, which allows access to actions which are only relevant in the current context. And interaction-wise, it works the same as the global drawer. So there are 3 ways to open a drawer. Either you can drag or tap the handles in the lower corners, or you can use an edge swipe, or you can also swipe or drag the primary action button, which gives you very easy ways to access these drawers. Because another very important aspect for us was that a Kirigami application should be easy to use while holding a phone with just one hand. So we didn't put any important controls at the top of the screen, because while holding the phone with one hand, the top is very hard to reach. And we also wanted to avoid the corners as the only way to access an action, so that you can, most of the important things are either near the center of the screen, or you can access them via swiping from the edges. And then if you want inline controls within a list, we've also added a slide to reveal function, which shows you actions which only affect one item of the list. So these are not all controls we have, of course, but they give a good overview of the main concepts behind Kirigami. So now for a quick demonstration. This is our gallery. You can see here a list with slide to reveal controls. When we open, this is the global drawer with the global menu. And we also have things like a sheet, which can be used for dialogue-like actions, which should not replace the whole content and can be closed pretty easily. One thing we also have is notifications, which can also have an action. Subsurface uses this, for example, when you delete a dive from your dive list, then you can undo this action pretty quickly. So that is interrupts the flow less than asking for confirmation first. Then you can also use the header, the title, also for navigation. And one can see here that it's pretty easy to navigate forward and back between the different pages or columns. And also for the to facilitate the single-handed use, it is possible to pull down the top of the application so that you can access things which are near the top more easily. And and as you can see here, the primary and secondary action buttons can also be used as additional handles to open the drawers. So this also makes it easier to use an application with one hand. So that is was a quick demo of the gallery. Now some examples of applications which are already using Kirigami. One is Subsurface Mobile. As already said, this is a dive log application where you can see and edit logs of your dives on the go on your mobile device. It is already released on Android. It's available from the Play Store, and a version for iOS is currently in beta. Then there is Peruse, which is a comic book reader. for digital comic books. It is currently in development for mobile and desktop Linux and also on Windows. Then we have Cube, which is a personal information management application, currently a suite of personal information management applications. The first application they did is Cube Mail. It is currently the application mainly done by Colab Systems. It is currently in development for mobile and desktop Linux, but also for Windows and OS X, and Android is also planned, and development has started for that. And another example is Discover, which is KDE or Plasma's software center, which is now also in development for mobile and desktop Linux, so that both Plasma desktop and Plasma mobile users can use the same application to install other applications. Okay, now Marco will give us a quick demo of Subsurface Mobile.
Just a second. Okay, so Subsurface. Let's try the desktop sharing. So this is a subsurface in kind of okay. Yes, there are two questions on the RC channels. The one, are Kirigami widgets being designed for interaction with a mouse and keyboard too? Yes. At the moment, we are more concentrating on the mobile part, but we are definitely targeting the desktop as well. One important application for the desktop part will be the Cube Mail application, since they are aiming for both a pure mobile application and a full desktop application, so a full desktop mail client as complete as one expects from a desktop mail client. The second question is, do you envision Kirigami applications on Ubuntu or Selfish OS phones? So on a technical point of view, there is nothing that blocks, because the components are designed to have as least dependencies as possible. So one, on one hand, can just use them. But yes, I can see the problem of conflicts in gestures. So in that case, would be welcome contributions on adapting those particular things. For instance, I could see on Ubuntu phone, swipe from bottom is reserved on the application, and swipe from side is reversed to the system. In Kirigami, Plasma Mobile, and Android, the reverse is true. So there would have to be some explicit adaptation in the component from that, but should be possible. Now, to get back to Subsurface, this window that I hope it's visible on the screen share. It's It's a subsurface, how it looks at the moment um, in its mobile configuration, but running now on the development system. So you can see that as soon as you start it, you have a list of the last dives that you done. You can synchronize them to an online server. We see here a demo of the drawer feature that you can either swipe from edges, that it's a more mobile use case, or using the handle button to open it. And it's pretty much semantically what a menu bar is for a desktop application. Then you can see the other pages that are just visualizing details of a particular dive, um, or if possible to edit as well the dive. And that's yeah, pretty much it for subsurface. Also on a bigger screens, such as a tablet or a desktop, it switches to a two-column layout, so you can um, switch more easily between dives. And yeah, that's pretty much about it for subsurface. I also have here Peruse, that it's an application um, that it's still in early stages of development, but it can be used for it's a document reader, more specifically a comic book reader, but can read any um, format that can be a PDF or the comic books that are, I think, archives with images in there. Yes. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Thomas, do you still have anything to add, or I will continue?
Just a few screenshots of Cube, or actually one, which, just a second. Yeah, so this is the currently the main screen of the Cube email reader. So there you can also see how the column-based layout is used there, and also that we do things a little differently on the desktop. For example, here you can see on the top right corner of the screen a classic so-called hamburger button, which opens a drop-down menu. Yeah, which is easier to use, and also which is more what users expect from a desktop application. Yeah, so with that, I hand over back to Marco for the technical details.
Okay. Let's do screen share again. So, technical details. So technically, what do we have so far? It's a QML plugin that consists at the moment mostly mostly of QML. We don't have much C++ yet. That also for making it as easy as possible to use it on different platforms. Like Android, so most of it would even even be possible to use it just by including the application QRC, or it doesn't have art dependencies outside of Qt. It has some optional modules for better integrating into Plasma Mobile, for instance, but all the functionality is there also without dependencies. So it's easy to deploy on Android. So for instance, the main platform for which Subsurface Mobile is developed at the moment is Android, while Peruse also deploys on Plasma Mobile and Windows. Um, what do we have? We do not have any of, let's say, primitive basic components. Like we don't have buttons or text inputs or anything like that. Because unless there is a real reason to replace it, we prefer to work together with the upstream Qt controls. So that means for the basic controls, you should use either QtQuick controls or the upcoming QtQuick controls too. That will have also a better integration with the material design in Android. The project itself is a simple Git repository that can be built with CMake, but since it doesn't have many dependencies, it's easy to use it also on QNAP-based projects, so also on QNAP-based projects on Android, having all the nice automations for deploying. Where is the Git repository? I can send these texts also later as notes on the RC channel, but we have on the KD infrastructure a repository called Kirigami.git. So I will send later all the commands to clone it. This is in the current slide are just the few commands that are needed to build, install it, also with the examples that are not built by default, just to quickly try the Kirigami gallery without diving in the code immediately. To use it from QML, you just have to do import org.td.kirigami 1.0, and all the classes that are used to implement the things that Thomas shown early will be available, like application window, dropper, and overlay sheet that I will explain in a moment what they do. So the QML file of a very minimal application looks like that. I even shortened it more to make it fit on a slide. And this is also available in the Kirigami repository as one of the examples that are shipped with it. As a root object in QML, you have to use the application window class. What it does provide is support for those site drawers, global drawers, and context drawer that are basically global drawer is the global one. with global actions that are defined in a completely semantic way. It's just a property that it's a list of the action object. In the action object, you just defines properties like its text, its icon, and what to do when it's triggered, in this case when it's clicked. They can also be hierarchical, so an action can contain other actions. In this case, you can have a tree-like structure, like I'm showing here in the demo. Context drawer contains the action that are specific page to page, that I will show how to define them later. We can see, for instance, in those two pages, in the main gallery start page, I have a set of two actions. In a subpage, I have two different actions because the page itself defines them. If I go in another page that does not define any of them, the drawer will not be available. Then the other important thing that the application window provides is the page row concept, that it's available as the global page stack variable, and you can just push and pop pages pages on it. In your application window, you will have to define an initial page property, that is whatever is shown as soon as you start the application. For instance, here in the gallery is this list view that just lists the various subpages. In subsurface is this list of dives. So definition of the pages themselves. They are provided by two different classes. It can be either page or scrollable page. There are two kind of things, because most of the times, especially in mobile application, the whole content of the screen of the page will be something like a list view or a big scroll view, like also you can see here in the gallery application, or also here in subsurface. But sometimes you don't want this behavior, but you want just a simple thing that doesn't scroll, maybe because you want to implement scrolling by yourself, like for instance here in subsurface that they implemented instead horizontal scrolling for going from dive to dive. So then in this case you just use page, that it's a simpler superclass of it. And then all the contents of a page will be just in both cases will be just children of this element. But the important thing is that grouped actions property, that it's, again, as we've seen before in the drawers, it's a purely semantic definition of all the actions that the page provides. So main left and right are for the main action button that it's here in the bottom. So main would be the central bigger button, and left and right will be the other two. While contextual actions will be the actions that are provided by the context drawer. It's important that they are defined in a purely semantic way, also for convergence, because then it will be very easy in other platforms, for instance in a desktop, to make them look completely different. Those three actions could be the three main actions in a toolbar, and then the other actions in the contextual drawers, either in a toolbar or on context menu, depending from case to case. Those are all the classes, but I will not go over them one by one. But it's easy to do so for who is interested in the Git repository itself. Just the few main one. Application window is the one that we just seen, um, as well as scroll by page and page. Global drawer and context drawer, we also seen them. They are the main and the context drawer one. There is another class that it's overlay drawer, that it's superclass, that you use that if you want something different, custom compared to this content. If you want to have completely custom content in here, you will just use overlay drawer. Overlay sheet, instead it is a thing that we use instead of model dialogues, that it's there is this kind of page thing that it's just an overlay to the current page, and you can just scroll it away to dismiss it. This, at least on mobile. On a desktop, they will look more like a normal dialogue. Units and team are just a bridge for things like measures independent of DPI and colors that are of the particular platform. For now, we have one that it's specific for the Plasma platform, and one fallback one that it's that kind of works anywhere. That is what we are using on Android. We will soon add others also for the desktop. Therefore, QWidgets, QPalette styles for who knows about Qt desktop stuff. And I have here some resources that I will paste them later in the show notes. So if you want to get in contact, we have a RC channel, Plasma Freenode, my lists, coming soon, the documents for the API. We have on a wiki page the user interface guideline, and also a simple APK for the current status of the gallery application on Android. And that's about it. And if there are other questions, please.
There was one question about styling. I think you can answer that better than me. So what options for styling does one have?
Okay, so for the basic elements such as buttons, sliders, text views, we use the styling of QtQuick controls, and soon of QtQuick controls too. We try to be as compatible as possible API-wise with the upcoming QtQuick controls too. So when Qt 5.7 will be out, we'll be using directly QtQuick controls too. So it will be basically a theme for QtQuick controls too, plus an extension for our specific stuff. So not much stylable at the moment. Our specific stuff besides colors. So on a desktop, it will try to take colors from the desktop theme. On Plasma Mobile, we'll try to take colors from the Plasma Mobile theme, and on Android, Qt will just do its own thing to try to look at on there. But with QtQuick controls too, we will try to integrate as much as possible with their team. And then what I want, yeah, all the basic controls I will style then with the Qt controls one team. If there are other questions, otherwise thank for your attention, and I will put all the URLs that I talked about in the show notes.
Okay. So yes, we will put our additional notes into the Etherpad once I manage to actually be able to edit it. And yeah, so that's it from us. And thank you for attending this session.
Thank you very much for attending.